Good evening. Welcome to the 12th Dimension and Scottish Paranormal podcast with me and Chris. Good evening, good morning,
Evening,
good afternoon,
evening, Andy. Evening, everybody in the
evening,
chat.
Chris. So this is the final input of Secrets of. No, Skinwalker Ranch.
You
Forgot
watched
where we was
you
then.
watched an American show on the fly. It's a
Forgot,
Curtis Skinwalker Ranch.
forgot where we was going. Oh, yeah. So,
You've been
final
you've
input.
been jetting off to America and watching it over there.
Just living it. Just sat there on the ranch with my feet up, watching everything kicking off. I wish. Oh, imagine that. It would be good. Oh, sorry, I've got a bit of sniffles as well.
So there's no much stories cutting about apart from a large steel or a large metal ball that washed up on a Japanese beach.
Yeah. Was that not like China's first spy balloon that went wrong?
It just looks like a big boy or something. No, I don't know what the big hoo-ha is about it.
Yeah, because it's not even, what is it? It's about 8 foot in diameter or something.
Yeah, it's also got like a clasp on the side of it, so it must take a chain or something. It's off a boat or something.
Yeah. It's not an old World War II
a
sea mine or anything where all the spikes come off it.
Possibly, yeah.
You never know. Oh,
Right, so back into Skinwalker Ranch, season 3, we bit of kind of review of that.
Yeah.
So going on the past ones, they managed to triangulate energy RF reading that kept coming from about a mile above the ranch, roughly. That's what they said. I think when it came to the end, they said it was anywhere between about 2,500 to 3,000 feet or something. Oh, no, sorry, no lie. It's about 2,000 to 5,000 feet, anywhere between that mark. They said there was like anomaly, some type of anomaly, spit it out, above the ranch at the Triangle area.
Yeah.
So when they were kind of starting off, they reviewed a wee bit of the last kind of thing they were doing with the helicopter, and they found that there was something flying under the helicopter.
Yes.
So they got footage of something flying under the helicopter, really fleeting quite fast back and forth.
It was going, I was going to say it was going back and forth on it, but there's only getting like the odd like frame of it. It wasn't like a solid picture though, was it?
Yeah, so that was going back and forth. But the thing is, the reason I looked at it, the footage of that, is because when they were in the helicopter, the altimeter was telling them it was something. They were actually 40 feet above ground or something, which they weren't. They were like thousands of feet up, and it was like, so either it was the basically gizmos were going wrong, or there was something under them. And he said that was the first time it happened in the helicopter. So it happened a few times. So when Eric Bard went back and checked the footage, they found that there was something underneath the helicopter going back and forth. Just a black line. You couldn't really see. It was going that fast. You couldn't see what it was, but it did go back and forth a few times.
Yeah, but it didn't look as though it was as big as the helicopter. It looked like
it was quite
like
small.
About the size of I'd say probably not even the front to before the tail starts, like not even the cockpit size.
No, it was pretty small. I mean, it probably, if you kind of tried to stop it, I think it looked like maybe about 3 foot in diameter or something.
So even if it's shooting past, they're going to have a trail on it.
Yeah.
So you could probably knock another foot off just for that. So, yeah.
So that was strange, but there was nothing else came for that, because that's where it stopped there. They never really found anything else from that. But the interesting thing was, at the start, with a flight tracker and data, they found like there was a government plane. They just said government plane. They didn't really what part of the government it came from, but they said it was 45,000 feet above the ranch, and it was doing a sweeping pattern above the ranch, or quite far up. It's almost like it was doing some kind of grid search pattern, or maybe a LiDAR pattern, or something like that. I mean, that's what it took it. And so they were discussing all that kind of stuff, and then you could see Dragon's face. Dragon's face was like, he pulls these kind of faces now and again. And I managed to like snap it, so I'll try and dig it out.
Do you know the best bit was? I'm just going to jump forward quite a bit. So they got a spike of over 3,600 or something, wasn't it? and he's like, right, you need to go and let them know to get out of that area when there's ploughing. There's taking the top cover off the.
You're going to like
deer,
this.
aren't they? And he flew. He couldn't get out there quick enough. Did someone mention digging?
There's something happened to his face. I don't know what he must have been at that point getting like overtaken with something for the ranch.
You know what?
Another one.
You know what that was, Chris? Travis has said we've dug more than 2 foot.
How to take that picture? Anyway,
did you see how quick you got out the investigation room to go and tell them to clear the area? And he turned up in the red truck. He was like, "You got to get out of here. There's a spike at 3,600."
I don't understand that when he's got a walkie-talkie.
Well, that's what I thought. Surely they've got radios with him.
Yeah,
And
so like,
just...
we'll go back anyway. So before we got to that bit,
sorry, I just thought that was funny.
So at the start, this will kind of relate to some stuff at the end as well. So it's worth noting anyway. So they were going to do an experiment where they're going to drop packages from the helicopter through the anomaly.
Oh,
at the
yes.
town. So they found the anomaly roughly where it was. They're going to go in the helicopter. They had maybe about 20 different packages. It was basically like a plastic bottle with like a large kind of ribbon stuck to it, and it had like GPS tracker in it and stuff like that. So, and they were going to track them for going down for the helicopter taking off up to the height level and then dropping them once they got the area through the
into the triangle,
anomaly. Yeah, so they dropped them all in. And what was interesting with that is the GPS data didn't come back as right as it should. Some did, but some of them looked like they'd fell and bounced off something, and then went a totally different direction.
But didn't it show? It showed that it was inside the actual.
Yeah, but that was another one. So other ones showed that they were actually, when they were taking off, they were 60 foot below the mesa.
Mesa, that's it.
Yeah.
It was showing they'd landed inside the mesa.
Yeah, so it was like 60 foot below the mesa.
Yeah.
When they
it's
took off.
Impossible to get that reading.
Yeah.
Unless he's got plastic bottles and fell through.
Unless there was like issues with the GPS data, which you could easily say there was. But it was funny where you had some GPS data saying that, other ones tracking it quite the way it should have, and then other ones are way off target. Like way off target, and other ones looked like they came down straight and then just went straight that way across, and they found them kind of further on. So it looked like it bounced off something, and this will kind of come apart later on in the show as it goes on as well. So I had quite a mad one.
But I think the best footage that they've got. So can I just quickly answer a question from last week?
Yeah.
I forgot to do it. Blue Shift is not in yet, but he'll watch it back if he misses it. He asked, was there any more results or information about what attacked the alpacas? But they don't mention it again in season 2 or season 3.
I think it was dragon.
You're not digging, I've told you. Pack it in. I think that's what it was. But
there was nothing else mentioned about it
ever again. And that's the sad thing about the show, because they could have made it so much better by, instead of jumping from one experiment to the next, when they get something, dig that, not literally dig, he'll be knocking on my door in a minute, but dig in that little bit more to find out more about it, to let us know.
Yeah.
If nothing else.
So that was mainly the kind of start of the show with the GPS trackers getting dropped for the helicopter and then going pretty much off course. Some below the mesa, some well off the mesa. They all got dropped around about the same point. Some looked like they bounced off something halfway down as they were dropping.
Yeah.
We moved on after that. The guys for UAPX came on. So UAPX have developed technology where it tracks UAPs and stuff like that. So they've got like a big truck, turns up. It's got all the spectrum analyzers. It's got thermal, infrared, everything you can get.
Yeah, it's full spectrum, isn't it?
Yeah, on this truck, and they were going to fire up some rockets to try and agitate the anomaly, or usually the fire rockets, it usually something happens, like UAPs appear and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It was funny because my kids were watching it, and the way that Travis always, UAP right there, always shouts that. My kids are shouting that now.
I know. Yeah.
So the interesting thing is, though, to start off with, when the guys for UAPX came on the ranch, one of them instantly got ill, as if he was getting zapped with RF radiation. So
didn't he go straight to hospital?
No, they put him in the silo, so which is a Faraday cage, and then he got better in there. But it was almost like he was getting targeted because nobody else could feel it when about him, but he could feel it. And then they were getting the kind of 1.6 spikes and stuff like that. He ended up going into the Faraday cage, which is just a big metal silo, and then he was better after that. So they started kind of working, going through the process where going to fire the rocket, and every time they fired the rocket up, all the UAPX gear all cut out.
Oh, everything just shut down because he had the vamp out up, didn't he, with all the computers?
Yeah,
and there's just in the middle of the countdown, and you can't do it; it's shut down. Yeah, but he went and did it anyway.
So they kept doing it, and then it kept shutting down every time they fired the rocket. So
like I don't know if 3-4 times it happened.
I'm not sure if that was maybe just a technical hitch where something to do with overloading it for the truck or whatever. Or you think if that's the thing as well, what we're talking about there, with like them looking at stuff. So if every time that happened with the rocket, surely they would maybe go and try it a different day.
Yeah,
I mean, if I was the guy for UEPX, I'd be like, no, I want to prove this works. I'll come back until it works.
Yeah.
And done it another day, but they never done that. It was just they kind of went through the process here. I think the UAP appear during that. The vehicle's called the Osiris vehicle, and it kept basically I don't know, the circuits overloaded or whatever. But the thing is, it's like he's got a laptop sitting there, which is hooked into his hand. He's got a lot of other gizmos and gear, and everything's shut down. You can imagine if you've got a laptop open, and even if it's plugged into something, and that battery if that battery cuts out, it's not going to cut your laptop out. It's still going to have battery in it or whatever. So something was overloading everything. But it came on, it rebooted again, came on, but then it just kept cutting out every time they fired a rocket into the anomaly. So
well, then they fired it anyway.
Yeah.
On the last time it shut down, it was like it got to the point where it was got to the point where it was too late to go back. They passed the point of no return and they fired it, and that was the one with the best readout.
Yeah. And there was during that, Candice and Tom, they're going around and getting some stories for the local area, not just Skinwalker Ranch. And one of the ones is from a police sheriff who got a call from a local resident and said that there's somebody flying a drone around my house. And this was only a few years back. And so he drove up to the house, and what he said he said it was like a large, like a bright light above one of the streetlights, about 2 streetlights distance up.
Yeah.
And he said this thing just sat there, and then it rose up in the sky. And he said he followed. He said he watched it for 20 minutes first, and it started to kind of move back the way, and he started following it. He followed it for as long as he could, for a good bit of distance. But that was it. Just a kind of story like that. He was only following some type of like UEP, whatever, but it disappeared at the horizon line eventually when he couldn't. He ran out of road basically. It reminded me of Close Encounters of the Third Kind when they're chasing the UFO, and he runs out of road, and you just see them kind of flying off away in the distance. That's kind of what it reminded me of. But that's what it seemed like.
Yeah.
And there's another local story as well, where a guy called Corey Sorowop. So he basically was like, I think he's like 5 miles from the ranch, and there was like a treatment centre, and they basically came out. He was working at a treatment centre. I take it as maybe like a sewage treatment centre. It could be anything. Could be the water treatment centre. I don't know. And they'd basically seen like a multicoloured kind of light UFO hover above the building, about 25 foot up, and it sat there for like 30 minutes.
Yeah.
And then it kind of shot up, disappeared. But it said it was the size of a small plane. Didn't give a really, really good description of it, but it did say it was the size of a small plane, and it hung above the actual treatment centre for a about
You're
30
looking
minutes
what?
until it
About 20
disappeared.
foot?
Yeah,
15,
yeah,
20 foot?
yeah. So a good size.
Yeah. But just coming back to when that guy went into that Faraday cage, that was when they had the analyzer on, it was picking up 1.6 gigahertz.
Yeah.
And it was broadcasting and receiving when it should have just been receiving.
Yeah.
And apparently that's not good. That was when it was hitting the spikes. And that was when he started feeling ill and he had to get out of there.
Yeah, that's funny because they said that. And that's the other thing as well when it happens later on when it broadcasted as well. And it was almost like it broadcasted through their equipment. And that was when the other guy, Tom, who stays with Candace, he basically got ill with it as well.
Yeah.
But it's a strange one, like, you know what I mean? But so that was kind of more or less it for the kind of main parts of the first few. You can move on to an interesting one when they go to this place called is it McConkey Ranch?
Yes.
McConkey Ranch.
McConkey Ranch. That was
it's
it.
like 34 miles away from Skinwalker Ranch, and
that's been documented for centuries of all different reports and stuff of high strangeness.
Well, that there had loads
of it
glyphs.
was John Dover that took him there, wasn't it?
John Dover.
Yeah.
Did he get the guy's name?
Yeah. Is he Native American?
Yes.
Yeah. John Dover. That's probably the only name that I've wrote down from this one. So he was the one that took him there.
I think he's Ben's brother.
And he knows Phil McCracken.
So at what's at McConkey Ranch? So McConkey Ranch has got a lot of glyphs.
Yes.
Glyphs. Some of them showing like other types of the beings and stuff like that. So they kind of said, and also up in the kind of mesa that's next to McConkey Ranch, which is 34 miles from Skinwalker, and it's got like over 1,000-year-old glyphs up there, which is like some kind of beings. There's other ones which has got like a spiral, which is
because they were saying, sorry, they're just saying, well, the Boldens is a megalithic range of boulders on top of that mound, what they think might be a burial mound.
Yeah,
and that's where the spiral is.
Well, so that's different. It's a wee bit different because it's when he comes back to Skinwalker, right? But when they're at McConkey Ranch, there's a spiral on the wall at McConkey Ranch up in the mesa. No, up on top of the mesa, but they've got a bit of cliff edge and it's got a spiral in that. And they said through a lot of cultures that the spiral basically is picturing like a wormhole or like a portal or whatever else.
Sort of portal.
So that's there. And then interestingly enough, there's a spiral on the mesa, like an actual big stone spiral up in the mesa at Skinwalker Ranch. And the interesting thing I kind of wrote down for that as well about the spiral thing. So you get a lot of kind of spirals and things like that through a lot of different mythology and a lot of different just history. You know what I mean? So like Celtics and stuff like that are going back a really lot further than that. There's petroglyphs. I probably mentioned this before, but there's petroglyphs between Bonnybridge and a place called Denny in Scotland, it's got like a spiral or a double spiral on rocks next to there, sits right across right in the same area on a hill as where all the kind of UFO sightings were back in the day, with the kind of the UFO flap, which was predominantly like late 80s right through the 90s. And spread a lot kind of further. So that's kind of my interest in it, as I said before, because it links into a lot of other stuff that we look at or we're interested in, and it's what can you take for the show that is transferable to the areas that we could look at within a certain cost implication. You know what I mean? So we're obviously not going to fly about in helicopters and get planes and stuff like that, but if it's like certain things where you could do and look at the RF signals they're looking at, or if it's because you can easily get you can get tri-field meters and EMF meters and things like that. But if there's certain things you want to look for, certain frequencies you want to look for about the 1.6, if it is that, and all these type of things, is there something we could use? Because there's window areas everywhere And that's my total interest in like the ranch. It's not just because of the ranch, it's actually because a lot of us sit in these places already. And it's how do we interact with that, or how do we find information from that using maybe some of the things that they do on the ranch.
Yeah, but they just seemed so intent on digging. I know because they wanted to find out what that structure was underground, but then because they were getting the spikes, they wanted to know what was going on above as well. And they just seemed to concentrate on that and not anything else that was going on.
Yeah.
It was just them two things. So it just seemed a bit like when they said, "Oh, there's a UAP," and they'd watch it and film it, and then they won't talk about it again.
I'll tell you one thing though, which I found quite amusing. One of the UAPs, when they were looking at it, and it was like quite a close up. It was just a light, right, moving through the sky during the day though. And they looked at it, and they were looking at it through like a kind of monocular scope. And they said, "Look, it's got a black dot in the middle." And I was thinking, Chinese balloon.
Yeah, because I think they said it's. I actually wrote that bit down. They're saying that they've seen the light in the skies during the day, and there's a black dot right in the center. But then if you're looking at a bright light anyway, it's going to have a black dot in the middle because it's like feedback, isn't it?
Yeah, I know what you mean.
So
that was it. So going for the McConkey Ranch, looking at the glyphs, there's also an area up in the top of the mesa at Skinwalker Ranch, which has got kind of stone. It looks like a burial mound. To be honest, that's what it looks like. If we seen that back home, we'd say that's a burial mound. That's what we call it. And a mound in the middle and a lot of rocks on about it. But when you look at the rocks above, they're on a kind of spiral formation, kind of walking out. And there's another bit where a rock, with a hole in it that would potentially look at the setting sun or the rising sun at a certain time of year or something. So there's all the kind of things, and that the thing with the spiral on top of it will kind of come evident right at the end. How kind of interesting that is for what they found at the end.
Oh, with the 3D image.
Yeah, we'll come to that though, because there's quite a lot to go through until we get to that. But so there was that kind of thing, and then they looked at they were going to do a bit more with try to survey a bit of the ranch and do a GPS location using a plane and fly over it with a plane rather than just use a helicopter and stuff. I don't know why they wouldn't just use a helicopter, but they're done with the plane and they thought they maybe would fly at a better height and get it more steady and stuff like that. So they did that. An interesting thing with that is they couldn't get the transponder data on the plane to work. They got it when it took off, but then they couldn't catch it for when they were trying to find it when it was coming over the ranch or whatever. So there was that, and they were getting that 1.6 gigahertz during the whole process yet, but they're trying to do this.
They was getting that all the way through. Everything they was doing, it's just 1.6.
It started feeding back to them, and then they could hear themselves.
Yeah, there's getting feedback.
So what happened is they could hear themselves talking in the room. It was always like getting feedback in the room, and they were actually hearing each other talk. So it was like me talking to you and getting feedback off your speaker. And they actually were saying, "Where's this coming from? Is somebody a bit bugged here or whatever? Or is there someone listening to us?" And Dragon and Travis went outside and started talking outside, and they could still hear them inside, like coming through their speakers. So it was almost like they were getting feedback. But this 1.6, they were getting some type of feedback coming through. But that's the thing, you never heard much more of that. They never talked about it again. So if they found the source of it, they never told you.
No.
So unless maybe the source is totally mundane and then they just don't want to tell you. So, but that was quite a strange one. That so they didn't get much for the plane one when they kind of went up and stuff like that and came round. So.
Yeah, and they kind of they didn't do much about like home. I know they kept mentioning Homestead 2, where that's like the height of activity, but they didn't do any more experiments like with the buildings around the area. I know like little derelict sheds or whatever, but they didn't go into them. And why did they not doing any digging there?
Yeah.
It was going out to do the digging, and the one where they put the green yellow dye into when they poured is it 45,000 gallons?
Yeah.
And they're trying to trace it. None of that. They didn't expand on that either.
So a few other interesting bits, just what we talked about there was the the henge type thing that was on top of the mesa, with this spiral or whatever it was.
Yeah.
They also had that guy up, the indigenous guy. What was his name again?
John Dover.
So he was up, and they were talking about. They said like that thing up there is a talisman, and it basically keeps the evil away. That's what he said that thing was. He said that
Right.
that's there to keep the evil on that side, and that was like the kind of the Utes kind of taking it and stuff like that. And and the interesting thing, so this has gone during the whole kind of process when they're doing the flight, and the flight data came back for when they were doing the flight and trying to kind of map the ranch and stuff. No, map the ranch, but do a kind of more grid pattern through the anomaly. And they said that their GPS data was actually it didn't work that great, and they couldn't get the transponder on the plane right. And then when it came out the GPS data, it was ended up when it came across the ranch, it was 62.5 miles below the ranch, right?
Oh, right.
And the interesting thing that Travis says with that is he goes that number, it was 62.5 miles below sea level, right? And they say the interesting thing with that number is 62.5 miles above sea level is basically the line from atmosphere to space.
Right.
So you see that's quite an interesting thing why it was 62 miles beneath.
Yeah.
And he said, I wonder if that means something, but then they go back into it after that. So it was just they does jump about a wee bit, but it's quite interesting some of the kind of stuff they come out with that, and at the same time kind of mixing it in with the lore as well. It's there. So they had the Astronomical Society in as well.
Yeah.
With the telescopes.
Oh yes, yeah. And then is because you can put coordinates in them, can't you? It's similar to the telescope I've got.
Yeah.
And I think they had like 4 different types of telescopes. I don't know. Like some were just your basic, some were the big wooden, look like the old original cameras from like 1700 or whenever. And he just couldn't get his to work. And as soon as they started setting up them telescopes, all the cattle started getting a bit frantic.
Yeah.
And they were running about and what have you. And
before that, they went and on you go, sorry.
I was going to say, and that was when they noticed that UFO, when he said, oh, there's a black dot in the middle.
But just before that, though, the interesting thing is they had the telescopes set up, so they had lasers pointing up.
Because they're all pointing to the same.
So the lasers pointing up, so the laser pointing up
coordinate, wasn't it?
Up to where they thought the anomaly was. They had telescopes trained under it, pointing up the way, and they had ones pointing across the way to it, further out. And the interesting thing with the telescope wasn't linked up to anything in the internet or a cloud or that. It was linked up to a computer, and the computer or like a system on it which recorded all the star data. So you could basically put it to a set. So you could look at a certain area of sky and it would find that area of sky what it was in the star map, right? Yeah, and they say you could find anywhere. If you could find anywhere, but anytime they tracked the telescope over the anomaly bit, although they could see stars there, it couldn't find that bit of the sky. He said it just erased it. It would just erase it out the actual thing, and they couldn't find it. And it would happen with other telescopes as well, and they couldn't really find. They could see stuff through it. When it was linked to the with the actual trying to get the location on the star maps,
it just wasn't picking it up.
It just wouldn't do it for that part of the sky. He said there's a big bit of sky there we can see, but it's no tracking it on.
It's like they said there was something blocking it.
Yeah. So, but the thing as well, he was at the same time as that, they're putting a laser up through the anomaly, and they could see the laser almost splitting.
Yeah, because you had 3 lasers, didn't they?
Or hitting some, so it was actually hitting something in the sky.
And then there's going across.
It had a slight bend in it, and then it kind of had a Y shape in it. So it was almost like it was refracting off something.
Yeah, because that was when they did the nighttime rocket. Someone's just put it in the chat as well. Sorry, 1 second. There we go, from Chris M. the rocket went up, and it's like it got part way up, and then it just went. It kind of went out and went off to the right.
Yeah.
I did write it. And deflected off course from a direct vertical takeoff.
All right, so the I've got
And
the UFO black, the UFO
yeah,
black
and that
dot in the
was
middle,
where,
spy balloon.
yeah, but that was right above the triangle as well, though.
Yeah, the spy
So,
balloon. And then obviously that was when all the cattle
Yeah.
kind of started going nuts as well.
invisible,
Which is
yeah. But can I just quickly add? I've done a little bit of research on. I have had the chance to do this.
the spy balloon.
No, on Skinwalker. Yeah, I'm not bothered about them. Not yet. Not unless I turn around. There's one at the window. Don't care. But in the 1880s, the Mormons took the land. I can't remember the guy's name. I think it was 1882, 83, something. They were looking for somewhere to settle down and that, and the ground wasn't good for anything. You couldn't. It was no good for vegetation or like building proper, like livable buildings. So they just went and used it as like somewhere to go for that for a period of time. So it was used for Mormons around 1880s, but then there's a lot of it's battleground as well for all the different wars in America when the French and the English were fighting over there, and then the American Civil War. So there's quite a lot of negative energy on there as well. But it was first documented of being used was around like late 1800s.
Mm-hmm.
But I can't remember the guy's name. There's like a settlement for, I won't say a few hundred, but a fair few people like were living in that area.
Mm-hmm.
So whether they had something going on, I don't know. But the first people to like own it, I think it started off at like 104 acres, and now it's like 512. Couple bought it in 1500s because they just wanted to use it for the cattle, and then they sold it to the Shermans, and then it went on from there. So it was like the first lot of recorded activity. I think it's either 1952 or 1957, but that was when it all first started picking up. Was around about like mid to late 50s.
That would be the couple that the old kind of police guy knew. Because that's what he said. He spoke to them and they said that it was like alien activity. That's what he said.
Yeah, because they mentioned. Is it Junior Kicks?
Yeah,
the old guy. Yeah, because he mentioned him. He was one of the first people. He was like
to investigate
it. Yeah. He's their neighbour, and he's had all these thousands and thousands of documents. What people had told him over the years, not just people that had lived there, but people in the area that had seen stuff like over the ranch.
Yeah.
And he just had tons and tons of what had gone on.
So they had also after the lasers looking at they're trying loads of different basically tests to see what the anomaly is, or looking through the anomaly, passing things through the anomaly. They think every time they're doing that, it's going to generate some type of response. So that's why they keep doing it. After that, they've got John Alexander back on again, who comes and visits the ranch.
Yes.
And also, he basically said it's that's what he thinks is a portal. That's what he said.
Yeah.
I think John Alexander's a really interesting character for everything he's been involved in through the time. Involved in, like, obviously the OSAP program, remote viewing program. He's involved in that at some point.
Yeah.
So it'd be interesting to see what else he's been involved in as well.
Yeah. So I'm just looking at the other stuff that had gone on. Oh, that's what I was going to talk about. I'm too hot. I've even got the fan on. Sorry, I'm just asking, am I okay? I've not got a hoodie on. Sweating. So I had spicy chicken, so that might have something to do with that. But I was just going to say, so when they was watching a lot of the footage back from the CCTV around Homestead 2, there was a few frames of a blue orb, but you could actually see the trail behind it.
Yeah.
And I think it's on for about 10, 11 frames. and you clearly see how blue it is, and trail behind it.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
could be ball lightning, I don't know, but it's
Is this
quite
the one that goes
interesting to
behind the
watch.
tree?
Yeah, so you can see it's above the ferns and that. Then you've got that little bit of woods, and it's
Yeah.
but you can see. Oh no, so it's moving towards the camera, then it just turns around and starts going back. But you can see how slow it's moving.
Hmm.
So, and then obviously you can see loads of like bugs and dust and that flying past it, like going 3-4 times the speed of what these orbs are moving.
There's so the thing with John Alexander I said as well, when they were trying to poke the bear or poke the ranch or whatever, and what happened? They seen a distortion in the trees. It was almost like opaque type of. I think the way he described it, didn't say predator type thing. That's what I kind of taken it as. But he said you could kind of see through it, but it was moving along the trees. You could see it. This thing, I don't know if it was floating. The way he described it, I don't know if it was floating or climbing through the trees, but he said you could see a distortion where it was that you could see through it, but you knew it was different for everything else. You know what I mean? But the amount of things they kind of seen, you know what I mean? So there's loads of things that had they been relayed and stuff like that.
But
there was, and that's why I always, when I was talking the last time as well, I think that there's things that they can't tell them, but I think they're getting hints and tips off people about where to look and what to look for. Because here's a prime example. So they had a guy on, a guy called Chris Bartell. He was an ex-security guard that worked for Bass. He worked for Bass, military guy.
Yeah, he worked for Bigelow, didn't he? From like
so
mid-20s.
Well, it'd be an OSAP program, so it'd be like a kind of military contract. But they said they seen canine footprints, really big canine footprints that were like about 3 to 4 feet apart. They had them documented and stuff like that.
Then they didn't talk anything else about that, though, did they?
No, but that's all he said. Though he did a wee bit. He said we've seen the footprints, which were like 3 to 4 foot apart or 3 foot apart, really big. And he said he's striding this thing. He said so. There was another thing as well where
didn't they hear howling or something?
He found. Sorry, what was that?
So when they found the footprints, weren't they gone up there looking and they heard some sort of howling or some weird animal noise?
So what happened was I'm getting to that. So he seen the footprints.
Oh yeah.
He also
they
found
the caves.
They found a cave with like wolf traps in it.
Yeah.
Which were in this cave, like big traps inside this cave. And then he went on to talk about there was one time they were doing stuff and there was a bit of activity going on and they heard like growling and howling coming out this kind of like trench stroke ravine with trees round about it. And I'll tell you a funny story. When I was watching this, and they said they heard a growl stroke howl coming out of the trench. And my dog went at the same time. So anyway, and then he said he's a kind of a big black, either a big black wolf or whatever, or mass jumped out of it and then kind of buggered off and disappeared. But the interesting thing, and this is what apart from these stories, right, they're just stories obviously that he's relaying for what they've seen. He had the pictures of the footprint, he had the actual traps that he found in the cave. So they went to look for the caves, and the caves aren't there anymore, right? Because they're basically all the boulders and that have all came down.
Yeah, they've all dropped down.
The caves now, right? So this is what I'm getting at. That's the kind of thing, and it stuck in my mind for the last time. So the guy said the cave is up here, but obviously all these boulders have dropped down over it, so it looked like a landslide. But so they find a bit of the cave where it could have been, but it's all covered in rocks and stuff like that, and you can't see it. So then after this guy, they get another guy in who is a demolition expert.
Yeah.
And says that looks like no landslide, that looks like a demolition. So somebody's actually blew the side of the mesa away to actually try and cover that, or to let the rocks fall down. So that's what I'm getting. See, any normal person who's knowing the demolition would have probably just took that as that there's been a landslide there, or the rocks have fell down naturally or something like that. So why have they went for that guy and then jumped straight into a guy referring them saying, or that looks like it's been a detonation or a demolition charge to actually blow all the kind of stones down. So it looks like almost they're getting hints and tips off of people, but they actually actively kind of say, oh, well, we've been told that they blow this away because of X, Y, and Z. It's almost like they're getting hints, but they need to show a certain chain of reaction to how they're finding it. You know what I mean? So it's almost like
telling them something.
It's almost like, well, we're not telling you this, but we're telling you this, but you need to kind of look like you're finding your way about, because it just looks like the way that happened with him looking at the cave and then getting this demolition expert, and that just looked a bit too sus to me straight away. So anyway, they get this guy in and then they start looking at the caves. So the thing with the caves, they move on to actually trying to kind of find the cave. They put smoke bombs down them and stuff like that. One of the smoke bombs just kind of puffs out. The next smoke bomb basically gets sucked back in through all the kind of rock closures and stuff like that. Because like, you imagine it's like a lot of rocks fell over. They start getting sucked back in again. Almost like it's kind of pulling the air in. So there's obviously something there. Some kind of cave structure. So,
unless it's like a bit of a tunnel. So if there's another opening not too far away, obviously the air is going to pull it back.
Well, you think so.
Like
you would think that. And you would think that, but there was no other way the smoke was coming out.
Yeah. It's just, there is a lot of strange. I'm just reading the comments as well. There is a lot of strange stuff that's going on there. But I just quickly go back to that was looking at yesterday with the research in the original where Skinwalker Ranch first started. The people that lived there first, he said he was out. They'd not long since been living there, and this wolf just came walking over. It's like, come on, so he was there stroking it.
Yeah.
Pleasant, didn't try and attack him, nothing. And then it just turned around, walked over to one of the corrals and just clamped its mouth around this, I think it was a lamb or a calf's head.
The calf, yeah.
Yeah, and he went over, and he's like, he couldn't believe it. He's like, what the F? He, like, the blatant thing, it's come over, been all nice, and if I'm going to go over and get one of your cattle now. And he starts beating it with a baseball bat, does nothing. He asks his son or his brother-in-law to go and get a gun out the truck. He gets it, shoots it. It's like the bullets, there's no blood or nothing. And just keeps shooting it. And it's not until he shoots it or smashes it in the chest, it just lets go of him. There's still no blood on this wolf. And it just turns around and it's looking at him dead in the eye. And then it just turns his back on him and just strolls off. And he's still shooting it. And he's like, one drop of blood comes off this wolf. And he's unloaded his gun on it. He's smacked it with a baseball bat. He'd been punching it, everything else. And then
that was the first story. That was the first story.
That was the one that happened in the 50s.
But no, that wasn't it. That was the recent one. That was the.
I thought that was the very first.
No, that was when the Shermans moved into there. That was the first story that happened to them, and they shot the wolf like.
Oh, they didn't make
that
very clear.
They beat it and all that kind of stuff, and it wasn't until they shot it and it was going across the field with the 30-06, like a right heavy.
Oh, then they followed it, didn't they?
Yeah, and they said a bit of
the tracks just stopped dead in the woods.
Yeah. But they said a bit of flesh had came off it. And when they got back to the bit of flesh, they said it almost smelled like it was rotten.
Yeah,
the flesh, and they couldn't find where this thing went to. It walked across a riverbed, and like a dry riverbed, so you could see its tracks, and it had disappeared. But that's the thing. So going into this guy they'd seen something to do with the footprints and the wolf, and then with this cave, and there was like some traps in the cave and things like that. And the interesting thing as well for that, there was the 1.6 gigahertz thing was all it was getting like interfering with the radio station no far up the road. There was a radio station, I think it was like 11 miles for the ranch. Yeah. And that was getting affected by the 1.6 gigahertz as well. It was interfering with like their kind of telecoms and stuff.
Yeah, because that's the transmission range, isn't it?
So what they did is they pumped out the 1.6 noise that they get in through the radio station. Yeah. And then that night, a lot of UAPs appeared in the sky. But I kind of thought the UAPs, the ones that appeared in the sky, looked like Chinese lanterns to me. That's what I kind of thought, like, when I seen the...
Yeah.
The,
Could have been. You never know.
no a Chinese
Just
balloon,
blame the Chinese.
no,
Yeah, just blame it on the
an actual
Chinese.
Chinese lantern, no a Chinese balloon, a Chinese lantern.
But saying that though, we used to do where I used to live. We used to have we used to call it a midnight picnic. So the big field, we'd go out and be like, a few of my mates are musicians, so we'd be playing music. We'd have like a little fire going, drinking, bit of food and what have you. And we had a load of Chinese lanterns. So there's probably about 15. So we let them all go. And the local papers over the next 2 days, a load of strange lights in the sky. I'm not saying nothing to no one. Because it's the middle of summer, it's at a clear sky. You've just seen this, like, obviously they all go into the same drift.
Yeah.
So just like a big line of these Chinese lanterns. Yeah. So there's
quite
a lot of UFO reports.
I'll tell you what was quite interesting, what I kind of found interesting though, on the kind of rock wall and the caves and stuff, right? Is so if somebody has put like demolition charges on that to kind of blow the mesa down to cover the caves.
Yeah.
Like why would it was during the Bass period, right? So it would have been like Bigelow's period with the OSAP and Bass. So why did they do it? Why did they do it? What's that?
Would that be about the mid-90s?
That'd probably be late 90s, 2000s. So why did they choose, if it was blowing up, why did they choose to blow that a bit up to cover the caves up? What would they try to cover up? I mean, that's kind of what I kind of find interesting.
If it was stopping someone finding something, stopping something from getting out.
No, because if that was the case, I can't imagine the ranch would be of significant cost to Bigelow, for example. So why sell it if that was the case? He owned it.
Yeah.
So why can he blow this thing up to cover what was already in there? Or maybe there was something that came out of it that they didn't want. I don't know. I'm just surmising here, but I find it interesting that if somebody's actually blew that bit away to cover up the caves, why they done it?
Do you think then they've gone into them caves and caverns, they've got what they wanted to find in there, and then covered it up to stop anyone tracking or tracing what they've done?
Maybe, aye.
And then that's why he sold it. It's like, look, we've done it, we've got it. No point staying here. Make some money from it. Move on. If someone gets something else, then that's down to them. But we just
maybe if something's came out these caves,
could be.
So that was the thing. So they had like a drone up in the air with thermal imaging, putting the smoke bombs down, and then some smoke was just getting pulled straight into that area and sucked into the mesa. It was almost like there was caves there with there was like a bit of airflow running through them.
Because when Nick Travis we went climbing through one of the little cave. It was little. It's like only like 3-4 foot wide, the entrance into the cave.
Yeah.
We climbed down to have a look. That's when we found the traps and all that. But why didn't you send like a drone or something, like remote control car drone, in there with lights on it to see what was going on?
Don't know. I mean, maybe there's no thinking like us.
Probably.
There's a car.
Yeah. But it makes sense to use it. They've got these rockets. They've got all these top tech equipment to do all these other experiments.
Yeah. So they then go into
that makes sense.
So they then put a snake cam down this cave, almost like a cave, but there's a lot of rocks on top of it, so you can't actually see the cave. So they put a snake cam down this. It goes down 26 feet, and then they can't go any further. And he sees something shiny down there, but I reckon it's just a wrapper or something. I don't reckon it's anything.
Could be a bit of glass. Could be anything.
They find something down there anyway, but they can't get to it. So I think that's what I mean. If it was me, I'd want to see what's under all the rocks. I'd be pulling.
Yeah, that's what I was saying.
Why not do that?
You'd have a camera on a car,
but even at that, you would start particularly to try to get these rocks out the way to get into that bit. That's what I was going to focus on. So on that one, they started off. So you've got, if you imagine the mesa's coming down, you've got all the rocks and stuff like that. So at the bottom of the mesa, because they kind of thought it was some kind of cave system, they're going to do a kind of horizontal drilling method going into it. So through the ground, going right through. So they started this drill and basically like drilled through the ground into the mesa, and the drill bit couldn't go any further. It went through something like 350, 400 feet underground into the mesa. The guy said it should have cut into that, no problem, but he said they found that they can direction it. They can actually kind of deviate it left, right, up and down. And they said they were trying to bring it up, and it kept hitting against something.
Yeah, some metal. They kept saying.
No, no, saying metal, but I didn't say that at the time. But he just said it kept hitting something really hard that they couldn't get past. And then it almost like it kept pushing them down. So, so eventually, when that had kind of finished, they found like there was like flakes. There was like a lot of different flakes sitting in the spoils that came out. There was a lot of spoils that came out. I mean, but what did come out, there was like some like kind of, it looked like metal flakes that came out. But it came out with the actual hole, which was gone back like 400 feet or something. So during when this was all going on as well, the guy Tom Lewis, they were overlooking at the homesteads to see if there's any activity over there because they were affecting the mesa and stuff. And he had some kind of heart issue. It was almost like he was getting attacked by RF radiation, and it affected his heart. And he had to go straight to hospital. He got taken straight to hospital.
Yeah. It's very strange. But then, like you said, when they started drilling, I know it's getting towards the end of everything that had gone on. The metal when they'd been drilling and they got the big, I suppose they're like sieves, like for when they do the gold digging, but a bigger version. They was putting all the crap and clay and everything and sieving through it all. They was finding particles of metal. And then they sent it off to be analysed at Utah University. And they were saying a lot of it is fused metal of europium and terropium, which is used in spaceship tiling for when the craft is coming back into the Earth's atmosphere to stop it burning up.
Yeah, I know it was tellurium, I think it was. Tellurium. Europium.
I wrote terropium. I was half asleep when I was watching that one.
He said that's it's actually two of the most kind of rare kind of metals found on the planet. One of them, like the tellurium, is, and it's a type of kind of stuff that semiconductors are made of. And that was, they found that 300 feet into the mesa, right?
Yeah.
And then when they went and got it looked with a metallurgist or whatever that means, it said it was actually fused together.
Yeah.
Right. So they said they were fused
different
together.
Metals.
There was other parts in the compound, but he said it was fused together. It would almost be like it was, and there was manganese in it, aluminum, all that kind of stuff. But these two,
they were the two
rare ones. So they're fused together. There was one hanging the top, one the bottom, and it almost kind of formed like a ceramic thing.
One was for the inside of the, what if it was a craft. One was to protect the inside, and one was to protect the outside.
Yeah, that's the kind of take on it was. They said the only other way, the only place that this could actually form naturally is in the Earth's core or something, or a meteor strike.
Yeah.
But there's no kind of evidence of that in that bit. I know there has been maybe a meteor strike, but at that certain bit they were digging, almost like this thing was going in and hitting something inside the mesa and taking chips of it off.
Yeah.
And but this the metallurgist, he basically said it looked like it was a manufactured thing.
Yeah.
But this is like inside a mesa.
Yeah. Well, this is quoting them. They said what they think it was a 400 foot wide metal dome of some sort.
See, I don't know where he got that from, because see, the thing is, it was like the guy on the drilling rig was saying, I'm hitting something and I'm going under it and it's hitting it and I'm trying to come out the other side. And then Travis says, so is it kind of curved? He goes, oh, yeah, probably. The guy said, you probably curved. And then, but he was in the mesa. He goes, how far are you in? And he said, oh, I'm in like about 350, 400 feet. So then Travis put 2 and 5 together and said, it's a curved structure about 400 feet wide. That's what he said. I mean, and I don't know where they got that from, because they can't get all that data for one guy drilling a hole. I mean, so he drilled in so far, and then he hit the structure about 300 feet in. And then it was whatever it was, if it's a structure or it's this type of material. And they said, the metallurgist said it's almost like when this is kind of fused together the way it was, it's almost like glass or ceramic. Because that's why the actual drill bit wasn't going through it. So they've got bits of all that back, done the analysis on it, and it's came back as what we said there. I mean, so pretty interesting though, like that. I found that quite interesting. I'd be digging into that mesa. I wish they would call it a mesa, just call it a cliff.
I know. That's all it is. Just a broken cliff full of boulders. So Warren's just put this up. So if Nid's found something, Bigelow would not have sold it. But then, because
that's what I thought.
Bigelow runs Nids. He's like the CEO. So
that's what
if he found anything, he's going to be keeping it anyway. And
I was quite surprised that he sold it.
It's not like he needs the money, is it?
No.
They might have been running out of pocket change and need a couple of million.
If you can imagine, there's like a cattle farmer owning that, and for what they probably paid for that, it wouldn't have been a lot of money to pay.
Didn't he pay something like 800 grand or something?
I'm not sure.
No, I know.
But I'm the same. I couldn't imagine if they found something. I can't imagine they would have sold it. But I don't know why they would have like blew that a bit up or whatever else to cover something up, because it does seem like there is instances in this where they get directed to look somewhere. So it's like, right, let's look at this bit. Oh, let's get a demolitions guy in. Let's direct this here, and it's like almost like somebody giving a nod or a tip to look at this, but you need to look like you're finding it your own way. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I'm giving you the answers in the cheat book, but go and show me you're working.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, a couple of hints.
Yeah. Yeah. That's kind of what it's like. That's what I think.
It's just strange. I think whatever Bigelow was doing, he found what... I don't know if he found what he was looking for. He found something, and then that's why he sold it. He might have found something and thought, no, I'm not having that. Let someone else deal with it. He could have sold it because it was not what he expected.
I don't know. I mean, I think there's a few mixed things there. I think he'd probably spent a lot of money on that stuff before with Nids. Yeah. He done the OSAP program with Bass, and I'm sure during all that kind of process, I'm sure it was like George Knapp said this, that he didn't get fully paid for what he did. And I think that's why he kept some of the documents and all that kind of stuff. But I don't know. That's not kind of substantiated. But the thing is, just going back to the bit there about the digging and stuff. Yeah. And it's like Travis jumping to like things like it's a dome-shaped structure at 400 feet. And where are you getting that for? That's not being substantiated. That's just like him taking like something that the drill guy says and then adding a bit to it for the depth it was in. I just, unless somebody said, oh, there's a dome-like structure under 400 feet wide. So that's, I mean, the day he just jumped to kind of conclusions a wee bit in the game, Travis. But
well, it's like, I just think it's like, seeing a ghost. It was a
bloke.
And he goes, it's a bloke. Oh, you've just seen the ghost of Jesus. You know, something like that. He's just adding that bit of detail to make it sound more interesting. So,
but I did say the thing is though, like I did eat my hat when I watched that one with the fact that when they pulled the black stuff out, and Travis says for all the black stuff, it was at the kind of the dig gun at the ground, and they pulled the black stuff out, and they said, well, this when they looked at it, they said the composition of that is if you crushed up a spacecraft or a fighter jet, that's some of the type of elements you would get, and I was kind of mocking them for that, but then when they found that the metal flakes and done the testing, that was all the same type of stuff that he was going to talk about that. So I'll give him that one.
Yeah, let him have one.
I'll give him that one. So
right.
And you go.
So sorry. I didn't say because we're on the hour, Matt. Do you want to go on a break?
Yeah, if you want, mate. Yeah,
is that all right? I just need to get a drink. Throat is so dry. Yeah. Well, what we'll do, when we come back after the break, if you want, it's entirely up to you. We'll finish this off and we can do a Q&A.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is that right?
Yeah.
Cool.
Long to go.
Hey?
No long to go.
No, not long at all. Right. So see you guys in 5 minutes.
7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
And we are back. Oh, perfect time, that break.
Did you get yourself
You
a beer?
want No, just lemonade tonight. Beer tomorrow. Lots and lots. And probably Sunday as well, because I'm not back in work till Tuesday. So it's even better.
Happy days.
I know. Right. Yeah. So I'm just reading some of the comments in the chat. So, question for you, Chris: if you had Skinwalker or something similar, and you found, you don't have to worry about how much it was going to cost. Money wasn't an option. Yeah. And you found all this stuff that was going on, high strangeness or strange crafts or whatever. Would you go around telling everyone everything that you'd found and what was happening? Or would you keep the majority of it to yourself or to certain people?
I don't know. It's an interesting question. I think in this, I think in this day and age, I don't know. I'd probably aye and no. You know what I mean, I think, like, for example, if you came across a new place and
Yeah.
you're finding this type of stuff, it's quite hard for people to swallow. You know what I mean? So it's
Yeah.
like, who would you be telling? You'd only be telling, like, the community like this anyway, who would want to listen to it.
Yeah.
But like Skinwalker, for example, it's quite a well-known place, so maybe you want to a lot of that kind of information to get out there. But at the same time, then you've got, if you find something that's it can be quite damning and interesting, then you might have all these government agencies
You're gonna have,
looking
but
at
then you're
you.
gonna have everyone else just turning up, aren't you, day and night?
Yeah. So you can understand. I mean, you can understand why back in the day why they kept it secret and why they had security guards and all this kind of stuff. Because when the book came out, you had every Tom, Dick, and Harry trying to go to Skinwalker to find out what was happening there. But I mean, so I don't know. I probably don't know. I mean, it's an interesting question because I'd say aye and no for different instances.
I'd tell some people.
Yeah.
But that, like, like I said, you'd have people camping outside or trying to break in, and you'd be constantly fighting, whether verbally or physically.
Yeah.
What was going on? Because look at, it's a bit different, but Area 51. Look at the security. I know it's a government facility, but look at the security that they've had to get just to deter people. That's not even people trying to break in. That's just to stop the attempt of anyone breaking in.
Yeah.
And they've changed it from, what was it, 10 mile? It's now 15-mile perimeter.
Oh, it's a good bit. It's even probably more than that. It's a good bit.
Yeah,
That's an interesting question. It is. I mean, I'd tell some people, but at the same time, depends what the place was.
Yeah.
As I say, I think these places are everywhere.
Yeah.
And
it depends what you find. It depends what you find when you get there.
Yeah, that's it. The
So,
craft.
Yeah. Charlie, don't you know what it is? It's an underground factory for Chinese weather balloons. That's what the dome is.
That's it. Yeah. So on you go. You got any more questions here?
Yeah, there's a few on here. So I'll just go through them in order. So the first one is from Adam Sander. Like Dragon, if you two worked on the ranch, what nicknames do you think would suit you? I don't even want to know.
Quite hard. You don't really give yourself a nickname. You get called something. Aye.
Yeah.
It'd probably start with a C.
Yeah. Probably about 4 letters.
Yeah. Maybe your first name be Total.
Yeah. But I don't know. Yeah, it's just I think something like Dragon, it's a bit cringy, isn't it, really?
Dragon.
Yeah.
Aye.
So I'd call him Digger. His new name should be Digger.
Or Not Digger.
Yeah. Yeah. Bob the Builder. Yeah, I'm not impressed with Kelly. Beavis and Butthead. Yeah, cheers for that. I was going to say he's Eve, but it wouldn't make any difference, really, would it?
It's like Ant and Deck with the spam.
Yeah. Oh, what was the other one? Mr. Bond and Beaver. Yeah, but that's my nickname anyway. So, yeah. Karen. Oh, Ruby's put Karen and Kev. I'll be Kev. Because I'll get first digs on Kev.
Who's Karen and Kev? I don't even know who that is.
Don't know. Adam, Laurel, and Hardy by any chance? Yeah. Anyway, next question. Moving on from that. Right. So this is from Joe. After watching it all, what do you both think is happening or happened there?
I don't know. I mean, there is. I do think there's some type of connection or some type of portal or something. We didn't fit. There's like a wee bit we had to finish off just at the end, which kind of highlights a kind of link to some of the stuff we spoke about.
Yeah.
Which was when at the end they done a big experiment where they had the lasers local lasers pointed up to the anomaly. They put a rocket through it. The rocket blew up.
Yeah.
They seen a UAP, stuff like that. But after that, they done a photogrammetry 3D kind of model of the Skinwalker Ranch. So they got like a drone, and it's kind of like LiDAR, but it basically takes loads and loads and loads, like thousands of pictures.
Yeah, it's just constantly going around, isn't it?
It forms a 3D image of the whole area and ranch. And what they found that when they done it, so these pictures are taken at like different heights, different angles, different rates, and it's
a bit like Google Maps, isn't it?
Aye. So what it found is there was one bit of the ranch which was just this. It's like if you can imagine looking at a 3D image of the ranch, there was a bit for the mesa, and there was this just kind of big long kind of spike thing. It came up, really a spike, but
it's a weird structure. There was two of them.
It just came right up out the mesa, and it was almost like it depixelated at a certain point, but it depixelated at different heights, different angles for all this point, and it also depixelated at another point, which was at the back of the kind of the monolith kind of spiral kind of thing. And then when you looked at the one at the back, it kind of lined right up with the main big stone, and then into this other kind of anomaly. So it's quite. I found that interesting, but I do think there's maybe something underground.
Yeah, that thing is though that
makes this anomaly.
Yeah, but that anomaly shouldn't have been there. They shouldn't have picked anything up. But obviously, there's some structure that is out of our frequency. Blue Chief just put yes, they got a 3D portal. But that's pretty much what they're saying. Everyone seems to agree that there's some kind of portal, some rift opening interdimensional gateway or something. And that just seems to be the outcome from the three series.
Maybe not even a portal. I mean, I wouldn't even say it's a portal. I would just probably say it's a bit where the different dimensions are revealed thinner or they merge better.
Yeah. There's like some sort of crossover.
It's like a kind of crossover point where it's thinner or it makes it easier for things to come through or whatever.
Yeah.
If that crossover point's probably maybe even made by a technology that was developed, like I'm just surmising here, back in the day. So it almost looks like that there's something being put underground, right?
Yeah.
Albeit a bit of technology, or albeit just certain materials that would form the premise of some type of technology, like superconductivity or whatever else, that actually helps whatever this above the ranch, or forms part of this, or generates it naturally because of something that's under there. That's kind of what I think. You know what I mean? But it's
so that whatever's underneath has been planted there on purpose.
That's what I think. I think there's something there that's been put under there, and it actually that's a causal thing of what this is above the ranch. So it's almost like if you can imagine that you've got like a satellite dish, and you've got the dish, and you've got the bits that point up for the dish.
Yeah.
It generates. Like, that's what I see when I look at that. I think like there's something underground that's basically it's a kind of causal point to whatever it is above the ranch, or to make this crossover point easier for things to come through, things to pass over, and things to connect easier. And that's what I see it as.
Yeah, so something someone or something has found this big energy shift in the area, so they've put something there to keep it constantly active.
Or even on the other senses, like they've put something there which causes that.
Right. To make it
So,
happen.
to make it happen. So something's there and it actually makes it happen or cross over because this is there and it highlights it. It's like a magnifying glass. You know what I mean? It's like something like that. I don't know. That's just my kind of take on it. I think there's something being put there back in the day. I'm not talking about like just a couple of hundred years ago. I'm talking about like hundreds of thousands of years ago.
Yeah.
That there's something there that actually generates some type of kind of portal or whatever. And other things come through. It's maybe been developed for a certain type of technology or a certain type of consciousness or whatever, but I think there's other things slipping through for this as well. It's no just like what it's been meant for. I mean, but that's just me being hypothetical. I mean, it's no.
Well, I think everyone's entitled to their own opinion about what's there and what's going on, and without actually going and doing your own experiments, you're limited to your own thoughts.
Or unless like these areas are here, and then there's things that highlight it a bit better or things that make it stand out. So you get things like there's maybe you get Stonehenge, for example. It's an area down south. It's probably got a some type of energy attached to it, and then maybe the focus with the stones built on it makes it different. It's something like that, or you get
amplifies it.
Exactly. Or you get like stone circles where they find the energy and they highlight it, and they do this and it amplifies it with the energy of people being there or the stones or whatever else. So it's something like that.
Yeah. No, that'd make a lot of sense. So I'm just looking at the questions. Right, next one is from Ancient Ruby. How much of the Skinwalker Ranch do you think is actually truth? So, are we going off the show or in general?
I think probably everything. I mean, but I do believe the whole kind of Sherman thing. Yeah. I believe what's kind of happened in regards to the Bass thing. I didn't think they were trying to, because a lot of that was kind of, well, the NID stuff, a lot of the Bass stuff you don't know about, but some of the Bass stuff you do. And then what's been in the show. So
see, I don't really know a lot about the Bass stuff. I've just heard it mentioned now and again, but don't really know anything about it.
I think in terms of the show, I think some of the stuff in the show could be explainable. I think some of the stuff in the show is there's like good points in the show where you actually think, right, there's an anomaly there, or whatever else. But there is some things that are kind of maybe easy explainable, and they jump to the worst conclusion every time, thinking like, oh, it's crazy. This is the working. I mean, there's one bit in it. I'll give you a prime example where they dug that hole horizontally into Mesa, and they tried to get some wee robotic kind of. It was like a robotic kind of robot on tracks with like a camera to drive up it, and it stopped about a foot up. They're like, just again, these things didn't work in the ranch. The technology you're using, the wee thing's crap. It's not working right. It's not driving up far enough, and it's just cutting out. That's none to do with the ranch. You know what I mean?
No.
That's what I'm saying. They jump to conclusions and
it's on gravel. I think it's on gravel.
It's climbing through the mud and stuff like that. It's like it's obviously can't get past it. The guy's like robots pish.
It'd be like trying to walk up it in flip flops or something. It's just not going to happen.
So I do believe some of it. I mean, I do believe some of it. I believe quite a lot of it. But there's stuff it can probably be explainable. Same as anywhere else. I mean, there's like stories there where you'll look at it for a couple of different viewpoints.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm just replying to a question. Yeah, but
if I put a percentage on it, I'd be in maybe about a 70% mark. I'd probably say a lot of it's truth.
Yeah, but then there's a lot of it that we don't know because we're not being told for whatever reason. Whether he just wants to keep the knowledge to himself, or I think it's Blue. Yeah, it's Blue. He put something up saying that he took it on and didn't realise that there's a lot more going on that he couldn't cope with, so that's why he sold it on. Which is another possibility.
Yeah, totally. You can't. You take this stuff home. Maybe what you'd read it. Yeah. I mean, you get the whole hitchhiker effect, and it travelled back with people, and there's loads of different health effects that came from it and stuff like that. So maybe it was a case of getting rid of it as well.
Yeah. But was he living on the ranch, or did he just own it?
No, he just owned it. I mean, the Nids people lived in it.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah, because that was at Chris Bartle, wasn't it? He worked for Bigelow. He was one of the guys that lived there.
Call him Kelleher as well. I don't think they all lived there. I think maybe they'd stayed there now and again.
Yeah.
And stuff.
Oh, yeah. 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 But I don't know. I think a lot of it's true. It's like, but then it's called Skinwalker because it's to do with skinwalkers. And then I was expecting, might sound stupid or too over obvious, it to have more Skinwalker stuff going on.
Yeah.
And not these UFOs and high radiation spikes and cattle mutilation and all that kind of stuff. I was expecting like weird type creatures seen running on the top of the ridge or in the trees. And I know there was creature spottings like with the alpacas and that other thing in the woods, what looked like a yellow rectangle when there's all in the trailer. But I was expecting more like cryptid stuff and not.
The thing is as well, though, like
not the digging.
The people dig into it and look at it and they think, oh, it goes back in history to do with Indians and all that kind of stuff and whatever, right? But when you look at here, for example, right, in the UK, we've got ancient burial mounds, we've got stuff that goes down, we've got a lot of different weird encounters that happen. The only thing we're probably missing for that is oral history, right? Because you've got like maybe back in the day, we've got structures. I've got a structure it's literally 5 miles from here and it's like 5,000 years old, right? It's a henge, right? There's no oral history for that. I mean, the Indians have maybe got that, but the oral history has been passed down for generation to generation.
Yeah.
We've not got that anymore. Like the descendants of people who were probably up there 5,000 years ago are spread out through the UK now, or there's loads of places like that throughout the UK. So we're missing a bit of oral history. But apart from that, we've still got all these places here. We've still got all these things happening here. We've got window areas right across the country. And that's what I'm getting at. It's like, if people say you want to go to Skinwalker Ranch, I mean, I'd rather sit here and try and investigate here. Just give me the gear. I mean, give me the technology. I'll do it here. That's it. Because there's been that much weird
right on your doorstep.
That's the thing, there's that much weird goings on your doorstep that if you dig into and look at, or it doesn't even need to say everybody's going on the doorstep. I know it is here.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. It's like we've got that. We've got that as well. It's just actually spending the time to look at it and the money to look at it. Nobody's got that.
And that's it. It is all to do with time and money. So if you've got both, then you're laughing, aren't you?
Or a ranch.
Go where you want, when you want. Yeah.
What's this called? Skinwalker Farm.
I'd have Skinwalker Paddock. That'd be it. Probably not even that.
Skinwalker Farm.
Yeah. Yeah, you want to open one. Think of the admission fee.
5 miles up the road. 5 miles up the road.
Yeah, there you go.
UFOs, encounters, just loads of weird stuff, like spread over years. But I mean, unbelievable the amount of stuff up here that's been like that. And if you look at it in a space of maybe a couple of years, you'll not see much. But over the space of like even the last like 50 years, 40 years, so many encounters, so many sightings, so many things spread through a whole area and isolated pockets areas as well.
Yeah.
And we've got that. I mean, we've got like petroglyphs, we've got burial mounds. Usually look down south. There's not a case it's like it needs to be like an Indian burial mound or whatever. No. We've got that. All we're kind of losing is the oral history stuff that's been passed down and the mythology of it.
Yeah, it's just knowing what there is and where it is, like you just said. But then you've got a bit of advantage. You've got mountains where we've not even got hills around here.
Don't need mountains.
Yeah, it just adds though, doesn't it? Do you know what I mean? Just makes it look better. Right. So I'm just checking for the other questions. Right. So next one. So this is from Joe. Did they find something living down there, and that's why they blew it up? Could have been.
Maybe. I mean, I've heard stories of people. I heard stories of people doing remote viewing here, and they said it was like some type of base under it. I mean, that's something that's unsubstantiated, obviously, remote viewing story, right? But that's some of the ones that's been done here. There was all, and I didn't know the location yet. It was like a blind remote view, and they basically said that there was like some type of base under it. And I'm talking about a military base or something. It wasn't just like a UFO base or an alien base. It was like something like that that kind of referred to. But,
Right.
I don't know though. I mean, the whole kind of why they blew it up, if they did blow it up. I mean, I'm just kind of putting two and two together, but that's kind of what it seemed like when you look at the show. Maybe.
Then,
I mean,
is there any time frame on when it got blown up?
they were well. No, I don't know. No, I don't know.
No. That's right. I was just wondering. That was all. Right. Next one is Ancient Ruby. Why do you think the government got involved? I just think that's because Bigelow wanted to get down and find out what was happening, and he had the money, so he got the government in, and they started funding it.
I know how the government got involved as well, though. I mean, because when he done NIDS, he had NIDS, and then they had so they had NIDS, and Harry Reid knew about it because George Knapp invited him along to some of the meetings and stuff like that.
Yeah,
that they were at, and there was a guy. What's his name again? Lakatsky. I think it's Lakatsky. He was like one of the guys in OSAP,
right.
And he came to see the ranch. Somebody had said to him, "You need to come and see this place." I think it wasn't Bigelow, it was somebody else, and he came to see it. He came to see the ranch, and he at the time he worked for the DIA, and I think at the same time they were looking at maybe try to get some funding to do a bit more research into it. So this guy Lakatsky came to the ranch, and he had basically an event happen when he was there. So he was in one of the homesteads, and this thing appeared in front of him. He said it was like he said it. The description it was like one of the album covers of Tubular Bells, if you know what that is. It was like some type of kind of chrome-like structure. It morphed, and he seen that, and I don't think at the time he'd said he'd seen it, and he came away, and then he'd basically talked to his superiors and whatever, and they looked into it, and that's when they formed OSAP, and it was the day with weapons and stuff like that, the OSAP kind of program, but at the same time it was like, so they had Lakatsky and this other guy. Lakatsky went away after that. I think he actually read the book. He read the book that George Knapp had made, had written, and then he gave it to another guy, which was Jeff Stratton, and that Jeff Stratton went away to Iraq. He read the book when he was in Iraq, and he was into like contractual stuff to do with it was all kind of engineering stuff and things like that. But he worked for the military, and when he came back, and then that guy Lakatsky went to the ranch and seen this thing, and I think from that managed to get funding between him, Harry Reid, all that kind of stuff, getting kind of some formulation there, and then from there they got the start of OSAP, and that's where OSAP was the main thing that ran, and they even tried to get funding from Homeland Security or something like that, I think at the very end of it, but it didn't go anywhere because they wanted to try and go a long way further. But ATIP came out of that at the very end, but OSAP were still, they were the ones that actually investigated like the Nemitz and all that kind of stuff. ATIP came out of OSAP at the end. Bit a long-winded answer, but that's where it kind of came from. Good book to read if you've not read it already is Skinwalkers at the Pentagon. Kind of explains all that. That's why I kind of know that. Well, I probably rang in some points, but I can't remember the whole book. But it's worth a read. If you want to read stuff about Skinwalker Ranch, read the book, and also Skinwalkers at the Pentagon. Worth a read. Can I hear you, Andy?
That better?
That's better.
All right. Yeah, I have wrote Skinwalkers at the Pentagon. I've wrote that down. That's on my list.
It's own audiobook now, which helps me because
Oh, is
I've
it?
had Drive and stuff. Yeah, it wasn't
Yeah,
an audiobook before. Now it's an audiobook, and I went through it pretty quick. I think it's only about 6 hours on it or something.
right.
But it's worth
Well,
a read.
that was the one that I was listening to about Skinwalker with the original, with the Mormons and everyone, like the history behind it. That was on
Yeah.
audio. I can't remember the name of it without looking. But
it's
I don't know what's
interesting
going
how
on.
it's interesting how I think I was talking about it last week, how it all links in, because OSAP happened, and then ATIP came for that, and then the whole UAP kind of thing came out because Lou Elizondo left ATIP and tried to kind of do a bit of whistleblowing type thing, right? But
Yeah,
that all stemmed for that, and it all stemmed because of the ranch, because that was the original kind of OSAP thing. And then when the UAP task force was getting put together because of Congress and all that kind of stuff, the guy Stratton was pulled back for what he was doing to try and formulate that because he knew quite a lot about
right.
it. Now
Yeah.
he's a contractor now working for Raytheon or something. But he's as I said the other week, if you've not listened to it, George Knapp and Jeremy Corbell do a podcast called Weaponized. That's worth listening to. And there's a wee bit
Right.
about that. And that guy's he's spoken for the first time. And he's talking about like basically a wee bit about the ranch and about like some of the contracts he was doing and stuff. David OSAP and stuff like that. It's worth a listen.
Right. Cool. I'll have to look into all that once I get a chance.
5 minutes.
It's just having the time to do it. I will do eventually.
The thing is, the subject's that vast. You can't look at everything.
I know.
It's massive.
There's just so much happening, isn't there? So it's hard to cover it all.
Oh, it totally is.
In one thing.
It totally is. It's massive.
Yeah. Right. Next question is from UFO Joe. I think he's gone, but we'll do it anyway. If anything, have we cracked the case? I think we still have a lot to wonder.
Oh, nobody need it.
No. It's like everything else, isn't it? We're just we're getting closer, but it just seems that we're getting further away from knowing.
Aye. The more you find out, the more questions it just causes.
Yeah. So just more and more questions and less answers. Deeper down the rabbit hole, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
So
definitely no cracked it.
No, not even close.
Nobody need it. No.
Well, I said surely it would have. I did expect it to be more about skinwalkers.
Yeah.
And not the UFOs and not like all these different types of frequencies and waves and like microwaves and radio waves and all that. I honestly thought it would be more skinwalkery stuff, but it's not. So I was quite disappointed in it. It's still interesting though, what they was covering. I think favourite bit was about the mile high in that little triangle, because that triangle isn't that big, is it? It's only a couple of 100 yards.
No, it's not. It's not big at all. No, it's not a big area.
No, you could probably take you a couple of minutes to walk around it.
Yeah, it's not far. It's probably about 30 meters, 40 meters wide or something.
Yeah,
it's not that big.
No, so yeah, it's just everything, because he went from. So I'm just trying to remember, that isn't that far from Homestead 2, is it? So where the triangle is there.
No, it's not.
If you're looking at the triangle and you've got the ridge of the cliff in front of you, Homestead 2 is just to the right, isn't it?
Yeah.
A few 100 yards down the road.
Yeah.
So it's all pretty much in the area.
The interesting thing that I want to kind of take for you is, like, let's say, for example, that you've got an area that has got a lot of phenomena, or has got a lot of UFO sightings, has got like cryptid sightings and stuff like that. Is like, how do we? That's what I want to. How do we pinpoint these areas? How do we find these areas? How can we triangulate these areas?
Yeah. Yeah. How do we over here find what's going on?
Yeah.
Is it ley lines?
Potentially. I mean, a lot of people think that. I mean, that's the thing as well. But
Or could it just be places of high energy where there's been a lot of activity, like fighting and wars, and
but when I
not
spoke about
just
the other week there as well, is there's been things where if the what do you call it, the gravitational field's different, or if a magnetic anomaly or magnetic fields are different in areas, that's what sometimes can generate an area of high strangeness.
Yeah.
And
I
you
suppose
find that like
tectonic.
the place in Kentucky, where the Kentucky anomaly, which is like it's one of the highest places, and you get loads of strange encounters there.
Yeah.
Because that's what they kind of think here.
Yeah. So could it be like the tectonic plates where they're shifting because that be producing energy, and then that's moving. That's on a gradual movement around the Earth. Could it be that?
Could be anything.
Could all be made up, and it's just one big story that we know nothing about. You never know. Right. Next question is from Nickname. So, what have you taken away from the series? What would you like them to do What would you like them to do there if you could ask, and why?
I want them to pull away all the rocks, right? That's what I want to happen. I want all the
Just
rocks.
rolling down the hill.
I want all the rocks pulled away, and I want to see if there's caves there.
Yeah.
And I would like them to just start mining straight through the mesa.
Yeah.
Rather than just
Like horizontal, just
just mine straight in like a massive hole. Just go into it. You know what I mean? And then see what they find.
Yeah.
Rather than go in with like a 6 mil borehole, just go in with like a mine. You know what I mean? Just dig into it. I don't think we'll do that.
You'd have Dragon as the front digger, won't you?
Yeah, I'm
going to show the guy at the front.
I'm going to show that picture again.
Yes. Well, I got I just remember I did a video of part of it yesterday. So I've just got to find it. Be 1 second. Well, will you get that photo? I'll get this. That is good.
There you go. Can you do it? Can you get to the line? Right.
Yeah.
Right,
That's the face I put when I'm watching it.
No idea what's going on with his face there. Like, it's not really good for the light, but he's possessed.
Oh. Right. So when they've got the lasers up in the sky, yeah. I'll play this video. It's only like 13 seconds, but you can see what's going on. So I've just got to be quick and.
Yeah, that's when the UAP appeared, when there was like the lasers eye. Yeah.
Yeah. And then it just faded away. Which I did think that was strange. Because it did seem to be a lot of UFO activity more than anything else. So I think that's what I got from it. It was just more UFO than anything else. Keep getting told off for calling it UAP. You mean UFO, Chris?
UAP. Okay, I'll call it a UFO.
But that's all I've
got.
got.
A flying saucer if you want.
Yeah. ET aircraft. There we go. What would you like them to do? It's pretty much same as you. Drill straight into that, to the mesa. Just go straight in and have a look. And where they keep saying where the dome is, this 400-foot wide metallic dome. If you think that's there, then dig into it and find out.
Yeah, the thing is, just going back to the UFO thing, right? When the UAP thing came out, and like Hillary Clinton calling it UAP and stuff like that, which was back in, when was that? 2012 or something, or 2015 or whenever it was.
Yeah,
she was calling them UAPs.
Yeah.
If you look back, and there's the UK report, the UK report on UFOs back in 2004. They refer to UAPs in 2004 in the UK report, which stemmed from well before that into that. So it's interesting that we're going to using that terminology back then as well. Although the UK report was pretty poor, but
I kind of agree.
400 pages worth.
Was it? Wow.
Yeah,
didn't know that.
Send you it.
I'm good. But I kind of agree with the UAP thing, more so now, because UFO is more, as you say, nuts and bolts, where UAP
I get it. I
could
get
be
it.
like a light being, where the UFO is also the humanoid that can shapeshift from one thing to another, like the light beings, the orbs, or whatever you want to call them, like will-o'-the-wisps and all that kind of stuff. It's all, they can transfer from being the craft into the being. It's not all, it's something, it's a entity traveling inside a metal craft. Sometimes it could be, but I don't think it is as much now. I think evolution or something has gone in front.
What's that then, Joe? HFPV.
Could be anything with Joe.
HFPV. High frequency programmed vehicle. Hidden from public viewings. All right, okay. So if you had to rename Skinwalker after watching it, what would you call it?
UAP zone. Just to annoy everyone in the chat.
Bigelow's best bits.
Yeah. Oh, that's quite fair. What is it? No, dragon digging. Something to do with dragon and digging, perhaps to call it.
The Curse of Skinwalker Island.
Yes. Yeah.
See them, the seven the spoils it. Seven the spoils it.
Well, I said last week. Yeah, they're supposed to be doing a series 4, aren't they? So, but there's another thing that bugs me about this. It isn't that far from when they was doing the atomic tests back in the 50s and 60s, or whenever it was. So you're gonna have some drift coming over from that with the radiation fallout, nuclear fallout. So could that not be connected to why they're picking up all these spikes and?
No, I don't think so. I mean, you could put that down to stuff like gamma rays and stuff like that type of radiation, but no the RF signals.
Well, that was it. When that thing spiked, I've just remembered, to 3,600 or whatever it was. That was a gamma ray.
Yeah, that was, aye.
So that was when our dragon weren't having any of it. That he literally grew wings and flew in there and dragged them all out in one go.
Dragon. Yeah.
Dragon's digging disaster. That's what we call it. But yeah, they made him head of health and safety. That's when he pulled that face, wasn't it?
That's when he pulled that face. Aye, that is exactly. Aye, pulled that face. Digging dragons. Digging dragons.
But I just den. Like
Dragon's Den.
Yeah. Dimension difference. Yeah, but
we get Deborah Meaden on it as well.
Imagine her. She'd be buying it. She'd be buying into it. I want 20%, but you've got to dig 15% into it. It'll be percentages, won't it, that no one knows anything about. But I like them to just, when they pick up on something, to then carry on with that experiment, go deeper into it, and not just go, oh, we found this, right, we'll do something else now. It's like, well, why?
You'll probably find
I just don't understand that whatsoever.
Scallywag Ranch.
That's what it'd be called if it was round here. Right. Sorry, next question is... Oh, no, I've done that one. This is from Ancient Rue. It's more of a statement. Andy, some people can see through things without thinking. Remote viewers can see through things easily. Yeah, I totally get that.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah. Well, that's it. They've been doing it for God knows how long. Yeah, just trenches and digging and everything going on everywhere. First thing I want to know is where that water's gone, that 45,000 gallons. And then they dig into it and it's like,
well,
the thing is clay, isn't it?
So when they drilled into the mesa, when they drilled into the mesa, they also pumped in water for the drill as well, and that disappeared.
Yeah.
Right, and some of it came back, but then a few days later, there was a sinkhole starting to happen next to the triangle area where they drilled previously because I think excess water's been funneling around underground,
flowed down,
and it's took away the water underneath. Yeah.
But then, if it is full of like caves and caverns, then the water's gonna go down into that, surely.
Yeah, possibly. That's what's happened. I mean, it looks like it's went down there and washed out some of the ground round about it, and they've had a collapse.
Yeah, it just seems like they do something and they don't get the results that they want, so they just call it a day. Like they give up. I think they give up too easily.
Sure, Travis will have something to say about that. Look now, UAP.
Yeah. Surprised he didn't say that about that yellow box, that black mass.
So there was a thing. So going about another bit, you didn't hear much of this in the Skinwalker Ranch program, right? But going back to the Bass era, right? One thing you can find out in the Bass era when you look into some of the stuff and you maybe read that book I was talking about. That I heard a wee bit about this before, and they were talking about different methods of communication with the phenomena on the ranch.
Yeah.
And there was things where they would have children's games locked in boxes, locked in rooms, and there'd be they would come back in it, and like pieces that would be moved into different positions and stuff like that.
Yeah,
they would find that happened time and time again, and the trial that loads of times that did happen.
Yeah, because
that was back in the kind of
activity, didn't they?
Yeah, but I mean, as I said last week, the interesting thing is as well with the guy Jeff Stratton.
Yeah,
he had some type of wolf creature follow him back 2,000 miles away. It was out the back of his house or whatever. So, what weird stories? I mean, with the weird stories, the weird stories with the whole kind of medical aspect that people getting affected medically. Yeah, and this links into Gary Nolan stuff as well. When Gary Nolan was talking about health effects, UFOs and stuff like that, people coming into contact with UFOs or certain phenomena, and almost akin to things like Havana syndrome, which again is RF signals.
Yeah.
Although it wasn't exactly the same, but there's a lot of interesting. I mean, if you ever follow Gary Nolan, he says quite a lot of interesting things, and I think he sits in some of these panels now that used to be about years ago. That are like the Collins Elite or no, the Collins Elite. What's it called? The kind of panel of scientists that talk about UAP and stuff like UFOs, but didn't want to admit it. But the things that he comes out in some of his interviews, where you're thinking, where are you getting that for? Talking about like multiple different races, aliens and stuff like that, and talking about what if we were farmed? What if we were farmed? What if we were this? What if we were that? which links into like the stuff that Robert Monroe said as well, and some of the stuff that he'd kind of found when he was out of body experiences and all that.
Yeah.
And with this thing called Lush, it's really, really interesting, some of the stuff that he kind of says. And he's mentioned that a few times about like what if you kind of found that we're no top of the food chain. Lou Elizondo said that.
Yeah.
Alluded to that, and he said, and it would kind of turn your wall upside down. And Gary Nolan alluded to, what if you found out that what you believed wasn't true and you were actually farmed? Why would they say that?
Well, are they same again? Are they hiding stuff in plain sight?
I don't think some of the stuff that these guys say, they don't just say it because they're just thinking it. They're saying it for some bit of knowledge that they've got or heard from somebody else or whatever.
Yeah.
Especially Lou Elizondo and stuff like that, and like Gary Nolan for what he's been involved in.
Yeah. So it's got, like you said, there's got to be some truth behind it all.
But I mean, if you listen to the Robert Monroe stuff when he was doing out of body stuff and going into other dimensions, and there was this thing called Lush, and it was all to do about us being farmed and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
For certain reasons. And then maybe something no nefarious, but then you've got stuff like that, and there's other things that links into things that what Nolan says, things that what Lou Elizondo says, and things about like genetic manipulation go back 70,000 years, and all these type of things. It's quite interesting. Like going off on a tangent.
No, it's fine. They're the best ones. Keeps it interesting when we do stuff like that. But I don't think we're ever going to find out what's going on there.
I don't know. I mean, I think if you want to, I believe if you want to find out what's happening, you're not going to find it out if anybody else telling you. It's within yourself. You actually, I mean, gone within.
Yeah.
I believe that you'll find it that way, gone within rather than external, if that makes any sense to anybody. But I mean, it's, if you've not read the Robert Monroe books, basically who's in the Monroe Institute, who started the Monroe Institute and stuff like that. He's dead now, but his books really, really good, worth a read.
Yeah.
And it links into all this. It links into all this phenomena. No, directly, but you can see it.
Yeah. So, what do you think then? What do you think Skinwalker Ranch connection is to everything else that's going on around the world? What's your initial take on it?
I don't know. I mean, it's a hard. You can't answer that question. I mean, it's a hard one because it's like there's that much different phenomena happens there. As I said, it's the connection you've got between like different places with window areas and stuff like that. All that phenomena is seen there. You look at, for example, this area. Through the years, you've had all the different types of phenomena happening. You've got, for example, different places for the UK. You get different places in America, right across the world.
Yeah.
How they interlink, I don't know. I mean,
do you think it has got like a direct link to, say, another point somewhere else on Earth?
No, I don't know about that. I don't know about that, but I definitely a link to some other dimension or some other part of consciousness, or you know what I mean. Definitely there. I just think there's an overlap of dimensions of consciousness or whatever. Yeah, these things can just manifest easier.
Yeah.
But it's a hard one to even kind of comprehend.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, Joe's just put there are other ranches with the same things happening.
Yes, Skinwalker Farm.
The one up in Scotland. But the thing is, though, with the ranches, though, that's just because of the vast amount of land that they get with the ranch. Because who's going to stop them going out expanding? You're not going to have planning permission when you're right out in the middle of nowhere and there's thousands of hundreds of square miles of land doesn't belong to anyone. So you're going to keep pushing your boundaries, aren't you, to give yourself more land? No one's going to come around checking on you. Are they really? If you think about it.
Probably.
So
The other ranch on the other side.
yeah.
All I've had to say about it.
But when
They're off
I
my
first
land.
heard like a ranch, I just thought, oh, it's going to be like at a ranch in England. You know, we've got a few stables and a bit of land and a tractor. I thought it was going to be something like that. Didn't think it was going to be like, I don't know, half the size of London or something.
Just a farm, isn't it? I mean,
Yeah.
that's it.
But it's like it's just they've got that much land. So like I said, it's 500, 512 acres it is at the moment. That's a lot of land. So, Ruby's just put, so this will be the last question now anyway. Does anyone know where the original Four Corners were? Don't you know? You know that, don't you, Chris?
Four corners of what?
Skinwalker.
No, I don't know that. Because it's not shaped. It's not shaped like a square.
No,
I mean,
it's weird because you've got that bit, then you've got like a big square box on its own.
I don't think that's maybe the question she's asking. I mean, in regards to Skinwalker, I'm not sure.
Oh,
It might be
is
something
it Four
else.
Corners of the Earth? Could it be that?
Because the Skinwalker Ranch is like, it's like a certain pastures there, and it's like darkened about. It's like a totally weird shape.
Right, she meant the original Four Corners of America. No, not got a clue.
No got a clue.
No, sorry. I have heard of it, but I don't know him. So,
Four corners in the US is a square, yet
has a centre, but it was moved.
Oh, is that the kind of statue thing? It was sitting.
Yeah, I just remembered something else that happened. So when they're doing all these experiments, magnetic north kept moving, didn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
They're just using the normal handheld compass, weren't a digital one.
Yeah.
It's your basic one where you get in the outdoor shop. And it's just every time they went out to do something, magnetic north had moved about, was it like 200 meters or something?
Yeah. Yeah. Of like that has been referred to before, but it spins and stuff like that as well. But things, you know.
Yeah. Oh, Terry's just put it's where 4 different states all touch each other. I think that's a different type of podcast, that, Terry. We won't go there with that one. I don't know.
Government moved out the original place, put in an underground facility that will leaking. I've never heard of that. I know.
No. I've heard of the Four Corners of America.
I've heard of the Four Corners, the States side. It's like it's a single point, but it's like there's no like a statue or something that had like.
Don't know.
Oh, was that? Are you talking, Ruby? You talking about the thing that had all the inscriptions on it?
That got blown up a while back.
Was it all the inscriptions and that was on it? Don't know it though, but I can remember something like that. If that is it.
Don't know. No idea. But we are at the 2-hour mark, so we're going to have to finish up.
So you don't need to watch Skinwalker next week?
No. I've just got the book to read and the one about the Pentagon and everything else. But no, it's this podcast now is going to get easier because I've only got one more on a Wednesday, which is in about it's 2.5 weeks. That's the one with Eric Mintle. He's coming back on.
Say Skinwalker season 4 soon.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, you'll have to come back.
We need a review of that and have clips of the show with Bits with Dragons. So we need to copy and paste, copy and stuff like that, and paste it in.
Yeah. I was going to ask you this anyway. I'll do it on air. So do the other podcast, which is non-paranormal.
Yeah.
Do you want to come on there?
Non-paranormal.
Non-paranormal. So it's just basically we'll just be talking about anything and everything, and just finding out a little bit about you.
Yeah.
If you fancy that, that's on a Wednesday.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah.
Start that out. Yeah, because it's good just to. Obviously, you've been on here as a guest, and we've interviewed you and had a chat with you about what you do and how you do it, and the reason why you do it. And then it's just to get you on and Well, like dig into your personal life and find out what you do,
Bass.
how much you drink on a Monday night and stuff like
Not a lot.
that. What TV you make the kids watch when the missus is away, stuff like that.
Skinwalker Ranch, Domino's.
That's it. Tricking with pizza. Yeah, you're watching this, kids.
That's it.
Yeah.
I was telling Andy that earlier. My wife phoned me from Ireland, and she was away this weekend. What are you up to? So I'm watching Skinwalker Ranch, eating a Domino's.
Yeah.
Usual then.
Yeah. Adam's put you could do Oak Island for the next 15 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
The thing is, so when they look at this,
that's a Bible for that one. Like,
yeah, they're just looking for treasure, and they just find like mud and rotting wood, and never ever anything else.
I find it totally fascinating, and I did watch it for a lot of time, for a good bit of the seasons, and my wife was just like, "I'm never going to find it. Stop watching it." I did quite like it. I mean, I stopped watching it. Just tell me when it's found.
Yeah, it's like if I'm watching TV and it's like I'm flicking through and that's on. It's like I'll see what crap they're digging up this week. It's a bit like Antiques Roadshow, but they're out and about and it's just dirt and wood.
There was another interesting one as well. If you ever look into what they found when they remote viewed the Cursey Oak Island, I'm sure there was things where the ones that I'd looked into, they'd seen it was like some type of sphere structure under the ground. That's what they seen. But I mean, that's not what they're pulling out the ground. They're pulling all bits of wood and all wood, leather bound stuff and shoes. I mean, so.
Oh, right. So that's it. Oh, right. Last question.
Right,
Definitely last question because we've gone over 2 hours and I'm going to get my ass kicked. If there was one thing to remote view, what would it be? Anything, anywhere?
Anything, anywhere. I've thought of this many times, and Oak Island was one of them because I wanted to find out what was at Oak Island.
Yeah.
But an interesting one, like.
So with remote viewing, you can go into the past as well, can't you? It doesn't matter.
Yeah, you can go.
There's no time or anything really exists, so everything's happening all at once. So I think I'd either go into the past or the future.
I'd go to the moon. I'd do the whole Ingo Swan went to the moon. Well, Ingo Swan basically got coordinates, and it was the moon or wherever he got the blind thing to go to. And it was the moon, and he'd seen like structures and all that kind of stuff, and beings and whatever else. And probably that. Yeah.
Well, can I just say I got told a story about someone that did some remote viewing for the moon, and something happened, but that's all I can tell you. I'm sworn to secrecy.
All right.
So yeah, but the rest of it is really interesting. Just thought I'd throw that in there and annoy everyone. But I can tell you what once we end it, I'll tell you quickly. So, but I just want to say a massive thank you to Chris for the last 4 weeks.
Thanks for having me.
No, it's all your idea anyway, so I'll give you 100% credit for all of this.
Not at all.
Loved it, and it's been good that it's been something different. So we've been doing the same thing each week, but it's something that I've not done before.
Yeah,
I've really enjoyed it, and it's good that it just like the series just carries on. So proper enjoyed it. So thank you.
8 seasons later.
I know.
UAP.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me, and thanks everyone in the chat. It's been great as well.
Yeah, no, it's been a good chat. They're always good most of the time when they're behaving. So quickly, next week I have Michelle Free coming on. So she's my American connection for getting guests on that as I suppose well known as a lot of the names. So she'll send me an email every so often with a big list of people. I'll send her some of the names back and the dates that I've got.
Yeah.
And then she'll sort out with them and send it all back. And then I just book everyone in and she'll send me the bio for him. So she's coming on next week. And then I'm going to have to guess it the week after because I haven't got a clue. So I'm just putting my calendar up there quick. Oh, then we've got Heidi Hollis coming on. So Nick, this is one through nickname. She's already gone now, so she ain't going to be able to tell us anything about it. Then the week after, I've got Alex Lovelock. He does a podcast on a Sunday night. He's one of the guys who's down near Rendlesham, like Suffolk, Essex area.
Yeah.
But when we eventually do that thing at Rendlesham, I'll see if him and his mod Elaine can meet up with us because they do walks around the area on the UFO trail.
Yeah.
So they know all that part of Rendlesham. So nickname's still in. I thought you'd gone. Sorry. Yeah, so that's it. And then as long as Michelle comes back with the names that I've asked for, every Friday is booked now until September. So
cool.
One less thing to worry about.
Busy Fridays.
I know, but it's out Fridays then, and then Flying Solo is going to be on a Wednesday, as and when. There's no full structure to that yet, but this is just every Friday from now to the end of ever. I'll see if it can run as long as Oak Island. Bit of competition now. Chris, massive thank you for coming on and doing this. It has been fun. It's a good laugh and learnt a lot of stuff doing it as well. So thank you. Really appreciate it.
Just for having me. Thanks again. Thanks for being in the chat.
No, anytime. So we are going to go now. Thank you, everyone in the chat. Thank you, Joel, for the modding. Everyone else for the questions. We've already got Chris said he'll come back on. We've got like 20 odd witnesses, so he can't get out of it. So have a great weekend and great week, everyone. And we'll see you. Well, I'll see you next Friday. So take care and good night.
Thanks, Andy. Thanks, Joe. Thanks, everybody.
See you all later.